how faithful and how fair they are and how illustriously better they are than all other parties when they screw Bernie Sanders over in his own Democratic caucus. You will see. We'll see. You guys will say that they won't, but you have a little pitter-patter in your heart knowing that will flip and happen, my friends, because it's a fixed game, and they both suck.
And if
both parties
and if they do
suck.
it
at the highest levels of the federal government, yes, the Democrats do. Some of the Democrats do act like Republicans.
And if they do that to Bernie Sanders, you can guarantee I will be the first one to call them out by name and tell them what I think about them.
Yeah, well, get ready, because it'll happen.
And I was the first one to do so. I was the very first one to do so. I had the new... He was with the State House at the time as an assistant down there, Jeff Winston, who's now the head of the Kent County Democratic Party, called me a kindergartner because he was bullying me. He was arguing with me about Bernie Sanders not getting access to the van when they said that Bernie's campaign hacked into Hillary Clinton's campaign on the computer with the van access, which was proved in an article by the Washington Post to be completely untrue. It never happened. And even if it did, the Democratic Party didn't follow their own rules according to the contract that was signed between them and Bernie Sanders about van access. So Jeff wanted to argue with me about that and wanted to continue to bully and call me names and call me stupid. So I called the then head of the Michigan Democratic Party, Brandon Dillon, who's been a frequent guest on the show, and told him basically that Jeff better knock it off or I'm never going to have another Democrat on the show ever again. And then he got a hold of Jeff, and then Jeff started it, oh, you act like a kindergartner. Well, how do you expect me to act when I'm being bullied and gaslighted by you, Jeff? How do you expect me to act? Sorry, you get what you deserve, buddy. And I tell you what, I've got one more clip to play again. This is from July 22nd, 2015. Joe Elder ripping the two-party system. I haven't played this in a little while. Take a good listen, folks.
My issue is I'm not saying they're the same. Let's make a basketball analogy from it. The two-party system, for some reason, we have Dems and reps alike thinking we're comparing Michael Jordan to some average player and saying, look, here's the great group. Here's the terrible group. Mm-hmm. This group's way, way, way better. I mean, we're talking the greatest ever. This group's the worst. They're awful. This is Horace Grant compared to MJ. I'm saying both parties are like Steve Kerr and Tony Kukoc. Irrelevant. Not very important. We could have multiple players in the game that are much better than either of them, and we don't even talk about them because we're fixated on a two-party system.
And we don't even suit them up for play because we have policies like the DCCC that say, oh, if you're a vendor and you help somebody that's a primary opponent to one of our Democrats, a primary challenger, if you help out that primary challenger, we're going to blacklist you. We're going to ban you from helping us in the future at all. Do you know what that's called in legal circles? That's called blackmail. It is. I'm at the point now, and you know what? Now that I mention it, an idea just popped in my head. Maybe it's time that the college Democrats sue the DCCC and start getting charges pressed under the RICO Act, the Racketeering Act, because that's all that it is. It's legalized racketeering. If you don't believe me, just take a look. Speaking of things that are just unbelievable in my eyes, are all of these different media companies, everybody's saying, oh, Joe Biden is in the lead. Yeah, they've skewed the polls. They've used people over 50. They haven't been polling younger voters. They haven't been using cell phones to contact polls. The whole 9 yards. I've got this story. This is published April 16th in USA Today. This is by William Cummings. Senator Bernie Sanders finished ahead of Joe Biden in the first major national poll of the year that did not find the former vice president leading the pack of the potential 2020 Democratic presidential candidates. When asked whom they would support from a list of 20 candidates, including someone else, In an Emerson College poll released that Monday of that week, 29% said they would support Bernie Sanders. Biden, 24%. They were trailed by South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who got 9% of the votes. California Senator Kamala Harris and former Texas Representative Beto O'Rourke each came in at 8%, and 7% chose Elizabeth Warren. Former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro got 3%, as did entrepreneur Andrew Yang. Cory Booker got 2%. The rest of the field got 1% or less. Again, that was an Emerson College poll back in April. How have things changed? In every factor. In the crowd size at rallies. In fundraising. In actual support. When you take a look at a large swath of voters, not just the ones that are over 50, not just the ones that are getting pulled by landline phones, which most people under 50 don't have a landline. I'm sorry, the numbers can be manipulated. They can. Ask anybody that's taken simple college statistics, they'll tell you. Spencer Kimball, director of Emerson Polling, said, quote, Biden has seen his support drop. In February, he led Sanders 27 to 17%, and in March, the two were tied at 26. Now Sanders has a 5-point lead. While still early in the nominating process, it looks like Mayor Pete Buttigieg is the candidate capturing voters' imagination. The numbers hand him at 0 in mid-February, 3% in March, and now 9% in April. End of quote. The survey is the first of more than 36 2020 polls listed by Real Clear Politics dating back to October to show Sanders ahead of Biden, including the Emerson poll in March in which they tied. Which, again, the Emerson poll did not have any cell phone contacts on it. Sorry. In December, a poll by McLaughlin and Associates found Sanders with a 1-point lead, but Real Clear Politics does not include results from that firm. The latest poll from Morning Consult, which posts updates on the 2020 Democratic race every week, indicates the Emerson result could be an outlier. Well, I want to see how they poll it. I want to see how they get their results. Who do they contact? Sorry. Hate to be the one to bear the bad news to everybody, but that's how it works. And I want to get to this story. This is more Michigan related, but it does have ramifications across the country. And I'm sure a lot of people listening out there are sick of their auto insurance rates going up every year. You know, I had a conversation with my mom and my middle brother about this just a few days ago. And my brother brought up a great point. He said, the insurance companies constantly lie to you. They tell you that when you reach 25 years old, your insurance rates are going to drop. They tell you they're going to drop when you hit 50. They're going to tell you that they're going to drop when you own a home and you bundle everything. They're going to drop when you don't have accidents. Yet every single year, my brother has never seen a rate drop. He's seen rate increases, but never drops. My brother, who has never had an accident, has not had a ticket in well over 30 years, probably close to 40 years, who drives every day, and yet he's paying an exorbitant amount of money in auto insurance. And it's not just happening in Michigan, but in Michigan, it's more pronounced, mostly because there's a lack of regulation on the insurance companies. And I want to read this. This is from the Associated Press out of Lansing. This was published to Wood TV. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer is ordering a review of how Michigan auto insurers use non-driving factors to set rates and how they price policies in which medical coverage is coordinated with drivers' health insurance. The Democratic governor made her directive to the Department of Insurance and Financial Services Wednesday. The move comes as Republican lawmakers prepare legislation designed to lower auto premiums that are the highest in the country. Whitmer says the state must take a hard look at how insurers are setting rates to ensure that the use of non-driving factors such as education, home ownership, and credit scores is legal. Yes, you heard that right, folks. I mentioned it. Your credit score. If you have a bad credit score, it could raise your insurance rates. If you rent and don't own, your rates go up. If you only graduate high school, your rates go up. If you only have an associate's degree, you're paying a higher rate than somebody with a 4-year degree or a master's or a doctorate. And the insurance companies get away with it. And they say, well, our internal analysis says that these are all important factors. Yet they never show any of it to anybody in the public realm. Ever. The insurance department says it will consider actions to ensure that insurers, God, that's a horribly written sentence, are reducing premiums for motorists who make their health insurance their primary policy and no-fault benefits secondary. And by the way, that's the other thing. I don't know how it works in other states, but in Michigan, even if you've got private health insurance, if you get in a car wreck and get injured, you better have medical on your auto insurance policy or you're going to pay out of pocket because your insurance, your health insurance from your employer isn't going to pay for something that happened in a car accident. But your auto insurance medical will. Now, here's the easy fix for that. Say it with me, folks. Single-payer universal health care. That wipes it out. That'll lower the premiums. That'll lower costs all around. Yet there's still opposition to single-payer universal health care, and I don't understand why. If you look at the numbers, if you take out socialism and all the other negative stuff that the Republicans and centrist Democrats say about it, single-payer universal health care, take a look at the numbers, you're going to save money. It's fact. Run the numbers. That's all you got to do, folks. Really, that's all you got to do. Unfriggin' believable. This is just stuff that makes sense. But I guess like Jack said on this show recently, common sense isn't common anymore. Oh my gosh. And I know we've got an update on the insurance in Lansing. Actually, I've got this story. This is from Bridge Magazine, and it's dated May 9th. This is by Riley Began. Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer promised Thursday to veto legislation passed by the Michigan House and Senate that would bring big changes to an auto insurance system that has made Michigan's rates the most expensive in the nation. The Republican-backed bill, she argued, quote, serve a corrupt system where insurance companies are allowed to unfairly discriminate in setting rates, end of quote. Any bill she would consider must guarantee long-term savings for consumers and prohibit discrimination in rate setting. Republican leaders Senator Mike Shirkey and Representative Lee Chatfield counter that they can guarantee the bills they passed would increase consumer choice and save Michigan drivers a bucket of money, as Shirkey put it. Republicans promised up to 80% savings under the Senate bill and up to $1,200 under the House bill. Oh, they can guarantee that they're going to save that much money? Oh, really? Yeah, it's starting to smell in here and it's starting to get a little deep, too. Yeesh. Shirkey told reporters Thursday, quote, we'd be willing to talk to her about any changes she might recommend, but there aren't going to be any guarantees of that, for heaven's sakes. It's part of the negotiating process. End of quote. Or as Trump would put it, it's the art of the deal. Yeah. Whitmer's strong opposition, even following passage of a House bill early Thursday morning that added several elements favored by Democrats, sets up a high-stakes standoff between the new Democratic governor and a legislature long controlled by Republicans. Let me add, controlled by Republicans through gerrymandering. That's going to get fixed this year. Back to the story. If Republicans want Whitmer's signature on a reform bill, they should engage the governor's office now before the two chambers merge the bills into one. That according to Democratic political consultant Adrian Hammond, CEO of Grassroots Midwest. Adrian Hammond adding, quote, if the goal is to negotiate with the governor, you don't just slap it on her desk, end of quote. Republican leaders have pitched auto reform as a top priority this session, and it's an issue that has been important to Democrats as well. But Whitmer and other Democrats have said reaching a budget deal that provides $2 billion plus in funding needed to fix the state's roads and bridges is their top priority. GOP leaders want road fixes as well, but balk at Whitmer's solution of raising the state's gas tax by 45 cents per gallon. Guess what? I do as well. You want to raise